All right, Jackson, my GM 2K25 is just around the corner. WWE's new game, Roman Reigns on the cover. How are you feeling about this year's GM mode and what do you want to see?
Let's take a look here, Dan, at what we want in WWE 2K25 MyGM mode. Our suggestions: Dan's top five, Jackson's top five. Let's get stuck in. Dan, what's your first?
Number one, new match types. I want to see Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank, Elimination Chamber, War Games. I want to see them integrated in, but actually able to, Elimination Chamber, three of my men with three of your men. Let's battle it out. Take us back to SmackDown versus Raw, where you'd put men into one match together where we can actually kind of compete, combine crossover features, crossover PLEs. What do you think about that, Jackson?
I love the sound of it, Dan, and that's going to be my first pick as well. On the theme of these new match types, I want the option to finish our story. If we're going to have a Royal Rumble here, and we're going to have it likewise for men and women, there's got to be bonuses earned for those brand winners, including the runner up. So, for example, if you have four GMs battling it out in these Royal Rumbles,
Mm-hmm.
then perhaps of those four GMs, whoever's your top two GMs, maybe they get 10 spots each in the Royal Rumble. The losers only get five each. Whoever wins and whoever's the second last person out in each Royal Rumble, they get bonuses as well. Maybe it's a 40-person Royal Rumble where
Well,
everyone gets 10.
here's the thing. We don't even need to go into semantics of it. We just want to see these matches in the game, one way or another. I'm sure they can come up with a way to balance it, but we just want them in, War Games, Elimination Chamber, especially Money in the Bank is one of the ones I really want. Being able to use that cash in, maybe it can give a bonus to a match or something if you cash in and it fails or if it goes off. So there's a lot of things you could do with that as well, I think, too.
That's right. And what if that cash in, that Money in the Bank winner, what if they can get traded between brands and they bring with them a popularity boost? And then if that
Mm.
person cashes it in, everyone gets a bonus. What if the Elimination Chamber PLE, for example, what if that's brand specific? And if you have four players, four brands in your GM mode, everyone gets to pick one of those. You get a TLC show, you get a Hell in a Cell show, one of those where it's going to get you a big bonus that no one else can get.
Do you mean like, so, for example, I think it's the Extreme Rules pay per view where I believe the Extreme Rules match is branded bonus. Is that what you're saying with the Elimination Chamber?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Mm.
So then, in particular, that GM who's running that show, they're going to get a massive boost. It could even be Survivor Series, where, like Royal Rumble, every GM, if there's three or four of them, they all pick stars for men and women's matches, and whoever the winners are, they go on to get big bonuses. Something with a bit more interactivity across the brands, rather than everyone's just putting on what is essentially the same PLE. On to number two, then, just aligned on that, Dan, you mentioned you're interested in crossover PLEs and competitive features. What have you got in mind?
In the WWE 2K series GM mode that they've introduced the last 3 or 4 years, I think it's this Hall of Fame that you're trying to get to. You'll get these 10 gold trophies to get to the Hall of Fame. And I just find the whole thing completely useless, completely boring. Let's bring it back to ratings and fans, like the good old days where you've got just SmackDown versus Raw, the good old fan generation. Who's on top? Who's got more fans? Keep it simple. We don't want to go for these. You know, I personally don't want to go for these Hall of Fame trophies. I couldn't care less. And I don't think you do either, Jackson. Let's keep it to the fans. That's what the main thing is. I mean, that's what people look in real life between AEW and NXT, the whole viewership thing. Let's keep it at that. That's the story for me, and that's what I want to see back. You can have the Hall of Fame trophies there, but that shouldn't be can be like a side thing, if that makes sense. If you want to keep it in, keep it as a side thing, but keep the winning formula as the fans.
Agreed. Whether it's money, whether it's fans, maybe you earn more money by having more fans at the end of PLEs. If you have a great
Mm.
PLE, you get big boosts. They have to mean more other than just numbers on the screen. You said it. Just purely focusing on who has the most Hall of Fame trophies is a bit of a deal breaker. Fuck that. Park that to the side.
And they're all
I want to
random
get
too. They're like some years you would get a better run of challenges for the Hall of Fame, and sometimes I would. And then it's kind of like we're on the same anyway. It just
or we're
felt a bit.
chasing we're chasing down these targets that are a bit dodgy.
Yeah,
Like it's one's like, oh, earn the most cards, have the most triple threat matches. Like, what the fuck are we playing for?
correct. Let's keep it to the fans. You can keep those Hall of Fame trophies if you want, but I think not as a winning formula. So, all right, Jackson, what's your next one?
Well, speaking of winning formulas and something I'd love to see revive from these older games, I want the opportunity to have mixed tags and intergender wrestling. If I want a
Mm.
man on woman feud, if I want two men on two women, if I want a mixed bag of all, I should be able to book that, put anywhere where I want them. If I want a woman to compete for a man's belt, if I want a man to compete for a woman's belt, if we want to get more creative with our gameplay and our booking, just like Chavita in our 2006 series, please let me do so. We should be able to customize all of that. Maybe it's a 3-on-3. Again, maybe it's a mix. Maybe it's a handicap scenario where it's Kane taking on Trish Stratus, Lita, and Michelle McCool again. Let me have my fun. And speaking of customization and more of this freedom, what's your next point, Dan?
Women's mid card belts. Let's get them in. We've got the belts now in the mid card for Netflix Raw, Netflix SmackDown. Let's bring them in. Let's get them all in. Let's get all the belts in. The more belts, the merrier. If we're gonna make mixed tags, I think mixed tags are a definite thing I want to see. Intergender, I'm not as much fussed on, but mixed tags, I think we should definitely see. And then the women's mid card. Let's bolster these women up because they're not getting left behind anymore. So let's showcase what they can do in the GM mode.
Bang on, Dan. I want to take this a step further. I want to be able to customize everything. It doesn't
Mm.
seem fair that they have an option like universe mode where you can customize all aspects of your show. You can't do that here in my GM. Now I understand that this could lead to some imbalancing, but perhaps it's like, if you choose whatever belt you want to be, whether it's the US belt, the WCW Cruiserweight belt, or maybe even a hardcore belt, perhaps when you go into that mode, you choose, are you going to
Or you can
choose
choose
preset
four
brands?
belts, your own
Yeah, you
four. Yeah.
are you going to use a preset brand, or are you going to make your own where this will be a top title, this will be your tag belts, this will be a mid card belt, same for women's, whatever that looks like, and you can literally put anything you want. You can assign your roster with any option of men or women. Just make it, maybe call it like a canvas mode where you just do whatever you want. Call it a fantasy mode. I understand there's universe, but the same thing should apply to my GM so we can have just as much fun and be competitive with it. So it's not just like a slog or like just playing stuff out for the sake of playing stuff out. We want to have that competitive drive. That's what we love.
And then we could basically come up with our own brands with our own custom titles. If you can take it a step further here, we could have our own branding, custom titles. We can have what we did in our last series where Dan and Jackson are the GMs. Like
Yeah.
you can do the whole thing, and even the wrestlers can be custom. So you're
Yep.
literally as you said, everything is custom. Even the
You can
arenas,
you can
like
download it all. You can make your own AEW
we're
Dynamite. You
already
can
nearly
have all their
there.
belts.
I mean,
And
we're
like
already nearly there.
again, we are on nearly already there. It exists in universe mode. Adapt it to my GM and just simply let us slot in and pick where we want each aspect. I get it. People still may feel limited that I can only have four belts. I can't have five or six. It's still got to be balanced. There has to be that competitive
There has to be
aspect.
the competitive.
But let us pick what goes in those slots.
And if you want, you can have the four belts. They can have so that first belt is worth 20 and
That's
then
what
the
I
next
mean.
one's 10,
That's what
10,
I
and
mean.
then 10. You can still have that balance, but just let us pick which goes where. So, I definitely agree. Jackson, one thing now this point might be for us, but maybe some people watching this as well. My next point, make the game harder. I think we've played the shit out of extreme mode and we wiped the floor with the AI after what, one season? Not even. Like
It was
absolutely what?
embarrassing.
Yeah, it's
One of the
embarrassing.
AI gave us a run for our money for maybe 1.5 seasons. And by the time we got to the end, it was game over. Once we started unlocking everything, money was coming in more passively. We built up the rosters. It was an embarrassment.
It needs to be more even, like all throughout. Like we shouldn't be able to blow out like that. I don't think.
No, not at all. And perhaps the game wasn't designed to have people playing for 5 seasons at a time on extreme mode. But if that's what we're doing on extreme, imagine if we played on easy or normal, the two of us. Like it would be embarrassing by the time we got to the end. Imagine if we played it. Imagine if there was these different difficulties with the SmackDown versus Raw '06 finite amount of fans, where there was only 10 million fans to go around or 20 million to go around the four brands,
Mm.
you and I would each be on like 8 million, and then there'd be 2 million for the others, if that. They wouldn't even exist. They wouldn't have everyone.
Yeah, I mean, we are the best players in the world, but still, I think you've got to cater to every fan, whether they're good or bad, and more difficulties either way, even easier and even harder. I don't, maybe slightest, but there should be a way to make this thing. I want it to be so brutal that me and Jackson are crying. It's so hard, and we can barely scrape by, and there's no chance of us winning. It's a miracle.
With everything that Copilot and ChatGPT can do nowadays, we should be leaning on those tools to give us the tips and tricks on how to win this, not mopping the floor with the AI in the game. Finally, Dan, last point here to wrap things up. What we want from MyGM mode in 2K25, we want the option to have shows with either all women or all men and no deductions. We don't want to have to worry about there's too many of a single match type. We don't have to worry about there's too many tags, too many women, too many men. If I want to book my show how I want, and I still want to get rated fairly as a result without receiving negatives for doing so.
Yeah, I mean, you ran. I don't know if we got it on camera, but you did an all women season against me, and it hurt you. You basically had no chance against me.
I
because,
handicap myself.
Yeah, it's a huge handicap, and even all men, I believe, it's probably a little bit better because of the belt, but
That's
still,
right.
it's still you're still going to miss out a little bit. So yeah, that's probably an addition that just should already be in there anyway. I don't know why the gender matters anyway.
That's exactly
I
right. We
just think
shouldn't
that's
we
a bit
shouldn't have to
silly.
worry about it. It didn't
Yeah,
matter in the old games. I get it in the old games. Only one brand had a belt the women could vie for, and the other one had a cruiserweight belt. If we don't have that now, it shouldn't make a lick of difference. And if I want to have all women on the brand, why should that I then miss out on the opportunity to have more belts?
correct. So if we run down these 10 again, Jackson, give us a quick 10.
New match types, crossover PLEs and competitive features. Focus on the fans. Make the game harder. Customize everything. Finish the story. Mixed tags and intergender wrestling. Women's midcard belts. All women, all men. No deductions.
And
Now,
supplement drafting. You missed the 10. Supplementary drafting.
this one, if we're drafting a roster, we should not just have to draft them permanently and spend big bucks. Where's the option to get the lower mid carders to potentially even get main eventers? Pick them up after the main draft has taken place for 5 weeks, 10 weeks, 15 weeks, whatever that looks like. Or perhaps we even initially we draft people out of the gate with those
Mm.
shorter amounts. Maybe I only want to bring in a Hulk Hogan or an Undertaker for 5 weeks to get things going. I shouldn't have to spend $800,000 out of my limited budget in order to do so. Perhaps we can sign people for only a certain amount of appearances throughout the whole season. Give me a little bit more freedom there, or make it as simple as, yep, you can get this person for 20 grand, you've got them for 15 weeks out of the gate.
I 100% agree. I love the drafting part of the game. That is so fun to
Absolutely.
me. Everyone loves it, drafting our people. Here's the thing with the drafting. I would love a bigger pool too. Maybe another 20 or so wrestlers to choose from would be nice. I know you've got to have that push and pull where you got to kind of
You got to
if
have the DLC.
you can't no, it's not about the actual wrestler, it's about the amount that they give you. Because a lot of the time you're seeing Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, you're always seeing the same guys in the draft, and we're never seeing the Cenas and the some of these other guys, the Hall of Famers or anything like that in the draft. And it just seems like we're drafting the same people every year. Whereas I feel like if you just give a little bit more the amount, does that make sense? But
Agreed.
yeah, no, I definitely agree with your point. The supplementary drafting, it should be in it. I mean, this was in an '06 game. I don't know why. And they've got that feature. You can do it off the free agency. So it's already there. Let's just bring it in. The mechanics are there. All right,
Agreed.
Jackson, thanks for joining me for our top 10 MyGM mode suggestions for 2K25. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.
Tell us if you want more of these. Please do. Another top 10, more top 10. We'll be back. Tune into the next series.